Perfect. Perfect. Great. Yeah. Thank you for having me. It's very, very humbling. Going through the course, I remember thinking to myself, like, wow, like these people who have gone through the course or they have on, like they've gone so far, like, how am I going to get there? And like, thank God, I feel like I'm, a step further than I definitely was. So, yeah, super humbled. Like, thank you. So yeah, I guess the way I guess I'm gonna approach this is in terms of just the the hashkacha that kind of drove me to this place, um, and what it looked like. So um, yeah, we were living after or during the pandemic, as many experience, you start asking a lot of questions about where you are and where you're going to go and how it's going to work out. And so, for the longest time, it wasn't really clear to me that I was on the right track professionally. Um, I worked in the film industry. I was a sound engineer, and that's where I kind of I have a very strong technical uh, talent, I guess. And so I was in the film industry for 5 years. Didn't pay very well, and it was not a very fun environment, even in like the independent areas where it's a lot less crazy. It's still pretty wild. So, I was doing the job, but it was uncomfortable. And so, I pivoted to forensics, which was interesting in terms of it, the technical part, but still wasn't really like filling the hole. Um, Strangely enough, at work, I would be bored at work all the time. And uh, I just started watching Professor Messer videos. I was like, oh, this guy's cool. And so, during work, I'd be on Twitter, like, messing around, or yeah, it just wasn't very productive. Or I'd watch, Professor Messer, like, oh, this is interesting. And then I got introduced to like hashing and kind of cryptography. Um, and I was like, yeah, I like this. But it wasn't really like the right time as far as transitioning. Strangely enough, my in-laws, who I love very dearly, they they kept pressing us like, yeah, you guys should just move to Vegas. We want to retire there. What do you think? And I was just like, Vegas? There is no way I'm moving to Vegas. You're out of your mind. Like, do you listen to yourself? So I ended up making some friends out here in Vegas through Twitter, actually. I was part of this like, pro-Trump, Twitter group. We'd go around kind of like messing around with people. It was a lot of fun, before Elon and the whole censorship and all that fun stuff. So yeah, made up some friends out here and like was visiting with my wife. I was like, wow, this actually is like a decent place. So we went to Henderson, and it's where we are now. And I told my wife, like, yeah, I can actually picture us living here. And she's like, what? And that's kind of what got the ball rolling. The question was, Parnassa, like, what was I going to do? And after watching tons of these Professor Messer videos, I was like, maybe I should just go into IT. Then a friend of mine also suggested, yeah, maybe you should go into IT. And it seemed a lot more practical than, say, like, because I was interested also in being an electrician, but you got to work years before you can even like get your foot in the door to a lot of places. Like there's like an 8,000 hour, prereq for like just working. It's crazy. So there's none of that in IT. So we moved in with my in-laws, which was great. And then we that was Pesach of 2020, actually 6 weeks before Pesach 2021, and moved to Henderson in June of 2021. I remember calling I don't remember exactly who I spoke to, but this program was advertised in Mishpacha magazine, and my wife said, hey, maybe you should take a look at this, because I was looking at different programs, what to take. And thank God I got my wife that Mishpacha magazine prescription like a couple years before. I'm like so grateful for doing that. Oh my God. Anyhow, so Looked into it and called. I emailed someone, and then ended up having a conversation with Hannah on the phone, and told her, what I was looking for, and I wanted to get some certifications, and she said, yeah, like this is not an easy thing. Are you sure you want to do this? And I was like, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, the course started in August, and I loved it. I love Leo. I'm in love with Leo. Is he here? I don't know if Leo's here.
I think Leo is here.
So yeah, he's a hero of mine. Yeah, I loved the class. I loved the coursework. And yeah, it was definitely challenging at times, but I learned a lot about myself. One thing I learned was that I really liked networking. And so I remember during it was early in the course where we do the IP address subnetting and all that stuff. I was like, yeah, this is awesome. And I remember getting like tons of tons of messages from people like, how do you do this? Oh my God, can you help me? And I was like, yeah, sure. You just do this. Yeah. So I was really into it. And my poor wife, she deserves a lot of credit, because like every Sunday I'd get up at like 7 and she'd have to take all the kids, and we're living with my in-laws at the same time, like every Sunday without fail, obviously for several holidays and stuff. So she deserves a lot of credit. But yeah, it was great. I remember also in early class, I remember accidentally wiping out my OS in the middle of class, and that was awesome. I had to get on my phone and like listen and like get my OS back online. I lost so much stuff. Anyhow, you make mistakes, but it was a learning experience. And it just so happened I was working at a pizza place at the time, just doing getting parnasa, and the school here, the Jewish school here, needed an IT guy because they're having lots of problems. And so someone from the shul here, it's called HEC Ahavas Torah Center, so they recommended me. And that's when I started getting into networking, like on a professional level. So I had to basically upgrade the network. We got them on a Ubiquity system, and also troubleshoot, classic help desk type of stuff, and really get my feet wet. And that was great. That was a great, I mean, I wouldn't call it a first step. It was a first step in terms of like being full-time IT. My old technical job in Hollywood was also had some IT to it. That's where I got a lot of my exposure to. And then that job concluded in June, obviously at the school, so it stopped in June. And then someone in the community had a friend who has a real estate company partially out here in Vegas, and they said, any Jews who do IT out there? Because we need someone who we feel we can trust, and they want to make sure they're from. And so that I was like perfectly lined up for the job. Funny thing about that interview, though, so I was interviewing like crazy toward the end of obviously the school year here at CyberWise Summit, and every interview I thought I like did amazing in, I didn't get the job. The one interview where I thought I blew was where I got the job. So you just never know, in terms of like if you're interviewing or your perception of what's happening versus the reality, at least in my experience, is very far off. So yeah, so I got that job, and so now I work for it's a real estate company. They have about 35 offices here in Las Vegas that I'm responsible for. I just got done overhauling all their networks. We got them on Ubiquity systems, small offices, larger offices. So yeah, that's kind of like the fun stuff that I do for them. Other stuff is just regular IT help desk stuff. Remote work for them also, because there's offices in Texas, there's offices in California. And actually, one of the highlights for me, I'm a total nerd, geek-tacular. So I started tutoring myself on their firewall. They have a firewall, Palo Alto firewall. Leo works for Palo Alto. Yeah. So they've got a firewall, PA820. And so they gave me permission recently to just start learning it. And so I'm learning it during my lunch hour. And I got this Indian guy, filling me in on how they work and what needs to happen when what's problematic. It's very fascinating. Yeah, and so like you kind of never know going through a course like this, like what resonates with you. And initially, when I was into the networking stuff, I was like, yeah, networking is cool, but like security is fun and like it's exciting. But in my heart of hearts, I was just like, I really like networking, and so like, yeah, that's what I gravitate towards, and that's my trajectory for the foreseeable future. Yeah, that's really it.
Shmuel, tell them about the certifications you got, when you got
Oh,
them, and
sure.
how you got them.
Sure. So I got so during the course, I got certified in Security Plus. That God, I don't remember exactly. I think it was in March. It was in March, and that test actually, I found that test easier than the second certification I got was the Network Plus. That was a harder exam. The Security Plus, I actually took it because it was harder than I thought it would be harder than the Network Plus, so I didn't bother with networking. The and I can tell you that anytime I've submitted my resume to someone in person, there's like job events and stuff, they always mention the certifications. And obviously there's this mock locus in the IT world, certs versus experience. I'm a big fan of both, honestly. I think that security, I'm sorry, certifications, they point out that you're a level of seriousness. And then the experience is kind of like the cherry on the cake. So yeah. So yeah, Security Plus and Network Plus are my current certifications. And I'm probably going to be getting a CCNA hopefully within the next 6 months. And CCNP, hope that my long-term kind of within the year, CCNP, because it's also Cisco. The military out here in Vegas, they're very heavy on Cisco products, which is why I'm focused on CCNA and CCNP. So, but yeah, that's kind of the trajectory that I see myself going on. And
How did you do it? How did you approach getting those certifications in terms of what tools did you use?
Sure. So I use Professor Messer, of course, classic. I would always ask him questions. I got his bundles. I also got a tutor through Varsity Tutors, and they provided me a tutor that I worked with. I still talk to him, ask him questions. So I would meet with him once a week initially, and then when I was gearing up to take the exam, twice a week. That was about a month before the exam. And then I used some books when I like on Shabbos. Obviously, I can't look something up on Google, so I'd buy books to look if I had questions on Shabbos. I would look something up through the books. And there was one, oh yeah, and he also, Jason Dion also is really, really good. I kind of almost favor him over Professor Messer, at least in terms of the practice tests. The practice tests at Jason Dion are almost exactly like the exams. So if you want to take a practice exam, and also those exams, when you take them, there a lot of times he'll say 90% to pass or 85% to pass. I failed all those exams. Every single exam I took from Jason Dion and Professor Messer, I always got like 70%. And I was able to pass the Network Plus and Security Plus, pretty well. So I
On your
don't.
first try, you passed both of them on your first try, right?
Yes, first try.
And tell me,
So
did you take them on site or you took them at home? Where'd you take them?
yeah, right. So I took them on site. I went to they have different centers, and you take them on site, and they there's a whole process of signing on, and it's interesting. The whole process is very interesting, but I don't have any experience with doing it remote. Apparently they're really strict remote, which is why I didn't want to do it like that. So yeah, don't be discouraged. If you're going to be taking those practice exams, you're doing better than you think when you take them. That's kind of my push there. So yeah. Any versions?
Well, I want to understand better, Shmuel, what you do on a daily basis. And do you travel around, or you're at your desk?
That's a good question.
What are you doing?
Right. So right now, what I do, it depends on the day. Sometimes, there's, things are just fall apart and I've got to go to this site or that site, depending on the issue. Like the cameras are down at this property, or the printer's not working again at this property, or the network is down and it looks like I have to call Cox and make sure that everything's okay. It just depends on the day. Typically, my day is I'll segment the first part of the day to going out, and then the after lunch I'll just stay in office and make sure everything's fine, um, uh, remotely, unless there's something special going on. Uh,
How
yeah.
many people are on the team, on the IT team? Of you said there's 35 offices, so there must be other people on your
Oh
team.
yeah. Oh yeah. So there's 35 offices here in Vegas, and there's like, oh my goodness, there's got to be at least double that. About 70 offices total. Texas is another 7 or 8. So we have actually a really great team. A team will make or break you, man. Let me tell you. So we have about regularly we have about 4 guys. One guy's in Minnesota, 2 guys are in California, and 1 guy's in Texas. And then there's the supervisor of that team. And so we all kind of like do everything together. Like I'll do one guy's job while he's away, or someone will do my job. The only thing that people can't do for each other is the on the ground stuff. Obviously, I'm the only guy in Vegas, and there's one guy in Texas. There's 2 guys in LA though. So yeah, it's a really solid team. We all have each other's back. Whenever there's an issue, we all kind of like pull together. It's really great.
Are there people who are working in cyber on like is someone doing a SOC, or you guys are managing the IT? So who's taking care of the higher level cybersecurity stuff?
So that's a good question. So a lot of the cybersecurity stuff is it's managed by by a company called Sophos. They take care of kind of all of our issues with regard to cybersecurity. If there's ever an issue, I mean, we get alerts. I get alerts, and if there's something that's blaring, like I'll address it. There's something that recently happened. I'm just trying to remember what it was. It was like last week. Um, oh, all right. So we had somebody who got like a phishing email, which we don't get a lot of, gratefully. And so I spoke to the person who got it, and it was flagged, and just made sure he didn't click anything, and it was all fine. So yeah, we get alerts from Sophos, and we follow up on those alerts as needed. Yeah. So it's all of us. We all take care of it.
Shmuel, one of the things I'd like to share with the group is that working in IT and getting to know the network from the inside and hands-on is a really solid way to enter the field of cybersecurity. And it is true that some people just jump right in and start, working in a SOC or working even in PT. But really, the pedestrian way, the way to walk into the field and to grow organically in this field, is to work in IT first before you are, navigating from above, but to really go through the water and handle the network and see how the network's working from the inside. Could you comment on that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I remember you mentioning that when I first got this job, and so and I keep that in mind, and I think it's absolutely true. It's very hard, at least for me, to have kind of like a full picture of what's going on without really getting a grasp on how a network operates, and the ins and outs. Like this whole thing with the firewall learning, like I don't know how people do it when they jump into like Red Hat or doing a SOC. Like, how do you understand what's going on a network level? I don't know. Maybe someone can explain that to me, Leo. So yeah, it's for me at least. I like this ground up approach. I do want to work in security, but I feel like having kind of this brick by brick approach is more. It's more comfortable for me, if that makes any sense. It's not about being comfortable, but like I feel like I need to have some solid foundation.
Yashai asked if you ever have to run cable.
So yeah, for sure. Heck yeah. It's pretty straightforward, crimping and running cables. Yeah, I mean, Yeah, what can I say? There's not much to it. Is just make sure the switch is plugged in, and you're good to go. So yeah, it's good.
Shmuel, I'm really happy to see you, and I'm glad that you're prospering and you're Baruch Shem Parnasa, and you should have nachas from
Thank
your
you.
children. And I'm happy that you don't have to live with your in-laws right now.
Thank you. I think we're all happy about that. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So thanks for being with us. As I say, always you're an inspiration. You have a great spirit and attitude, and you've done wonderful things. And I'm confident you're going to continue to do great things. So I ask that
Amen.
you
Thank you.
keep us updated and stay in touch. And we look forward to hearing from you again in the future.
Thank you, everyone. Good luck. You'll do great.
Thanks, Shmuel. Take care.
Take care.
Good night, everybody.